Hi, my dearest family. Today we are going to be looking at the movement of Black Moon Lilith, especially in 2026. On January 19th, Black Moon Lilith is moving into the sign of Sagittarius, only for 7 days. On the 26th of January, it's going to move into the sign of Capricorn, but stations retrograde on 2 degrees. Therefore, it's going to shift back into the sign of Capricorn. So actually, I want to show you that movement. And then after, I'm just going to be shutting my face down so that actually you can see what happens in this chart. So if we go back just a month, you can see that Black Moon Lilith is in the sign of Scorpio. And then if I'm moving a little bit further, then you will be able to see that on the 19th of January, it moves into the sign of Sagittarius. If I just move a week forward, then Black Moon Lilith is moving into the sign of Capricorn on the 26th of January, but stations retrograde. And then it's going to move back into the sign of Sagittarius on the 30th of January. And until the 14th of February, it's going to be hovering through Sagittarius and then moves back into the sign of Scorpio. So that's exactly what the true Black Moon Lilith will be doing in 2026. So, what is Black Moon Lilith? Oh, before we do that, I would like to let you know that my 12 house booklet is ready for purchase. This is 250 pages, pure 12 house placements in your chart. I even look at the major asteroids as well, aspects to those planets, the ruler of your 12th house according to house position, and I give you a major interpretation guideline about what the 12th house means. So if you are interested in that, then you might want to go ahead and you can purchase it on my website. And in a couple of weeks' time, the fourth house booklet is going to be ready as well. I spent 2025 writing books, and now they are under design. So the fourth house booklet, I think it's going to be at least about 300 pages. Because it's going to be talking to you about your parenting style, about your parenting experience, your family experience. And I really wanted to go deep with it so that you can understand and potentially heal a part of you as well. But let's go back to Lilith. What does Lilith show in our chart? First of all, I would like to remind you that Black Moon Lilith is not a physical body. It's not a planet or it's not an asteroid. However, there is an asteroid version of Black Moon Lilith as well, but today we are looking at the true Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith is a mathematical point in space. Specifically, it represents the lunar apogee. The lunar apogee is the point in the moon's orbit that is the farthest from Earth. And in astrology, Lilith represents the parts of our nature that have been suppressed, exiled, or even shamed. It points to where we refuse to submit to others and where we demand absolute individuality. She is a raw power. She represents taboo as well. It shows where you may experience intense primal emotions, such as rage or grief or desire, where you are most likely to rebel against expectations. Sometimes it feels like it's an outsider. So, what area of life you might get alienated, but also where you possess this unique, untamable wisdom as well. So you might want to be looking at Black Moon Lilith in your natal chart because it can reveal a lot of information about why you feel outcasted in certain areas of life. Now, you might be wondering why Black Moon Lilith's movement is so erratic, like only spending 7 days in the sign of Sagittarius, right? And so forth. So, Black Moon Lilith does this zigzag back and forth between signs movement. And this is due to the difference between actually mean Lilith and true Lilith. Because the moon's orbit is constantly being pulled by the gravity of the sun and earth, the farthest point, which we call the apogee, shifts and wobbles. kind of quite significantly. Now, the mean Lilith is basically a mathematical calculation averaging things out, so that wouldn't be moving that fast. And I'm not going to be making a distinguish here whether the Black Moon Lilith or the true Moon Lilith would be the better to use because both of them are actually showing something different in your chart. Okay, so that's the mean Lilith where we averaging things out. It's a smooth calculation, but the true Lilith follows the actual kind of that jerky movement caused by these gravitational fluctuations. And Black Moon Lilith therefore does these retrograde loops because it shifts orbits so it stations retrograde frequently and move across signs boundaries multiple times in a very, very short period of time. So she has got a very erratic movement. I don't think it's a shock actually, right? Because obviously she is super rebellious, so she has to be moving radically if she doesn't want to get caught. So in 2026, Lilith transits through three signs, kind of like going to be about reclaiming your truth, testing the structures, and confronting depth as well. Now, Black Moon Lilith has been in the sign of Scorpio in and out since 2025, May-ish. But the majority of the time was spent in the sign of Scorpio. And this is about, basically, this is the home of Lilith. Here she uncovers secrets, explores sexual power, deals with themes of death, rebirth, the intense psychological truth. Now, on the 19th of January, it is moving into the sign of Sagittarius, where she's going to start rebelling against dogma, hypocrisy, religious beliefs, narrow-mindedness. It is going to be starting to focus on the freedom of the soul and the right to believe in one's personal truth. Like I showed you, it's going to move into the sign of Capricorn, where in this sign, Lilith is ready to kind of go against rigid structures, patriarchal systems. It starts clashing with authority figures. It starts hating the rules. It starts revealing the shadow side of ambition and the cost of maintaining a public reputation or the flaws in certain type of systems. So the retrograde back and forth between these signs pretty much suggests that there is a reevaluation of how we handle power. By moving from Scorpio, which is a very intense sign, to Sagittarius, which represents our belief, to Capricorn, which is about structure, and then back again, it's going to be asking you whether your personal power is aligned with your truth. Scorpio power, Sagittarius truth. Does it have that sustainable place in the real world? And that's Capricorn. Imagine that Lilith moves into the sign of Capricorn and then it kind of stops on 2 degrees. That is acting like a hard stop there. It suggests that we try to build this new structure or new career, for example, but we are being pulled back to re-examine our beliefs and our deepest hidden motivations. Beliefs, Sagittarius, the hidden motivation is Scorpio. So if you have got any planets on 2 degrees of the cardinal signs, then this is actually going to be super important for you. Well, I do want to give you some degrees because like I said, on the 26th of January, Black Moon will station retrograde on 2 degrees of Capricorn. So if you have got any planets on 2 degrees of Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra, then this is actually going to be impacting you quite significantly. Black Moon will station direct in Scorpio on 17th of February on 22 degree of Scorpio. And then it's going to retrograde again in Sagittarius on 2nd of March on 25 degree of Sagittarius exactly. So if you have got planets around those degrees, then this is actually a super important one for you. Now, I'm not going to go further because in the future we can make a further video and then I can reveal the rest of the degrees. Or actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the screen for you so that you will be able to see. So That Lilith movement in the sky is kind of like trying to get you to find your inner truth because she moves from that depth of Scorpio through that wild Sagittarius and then it starts hitting a wall. So it really feels like that she's testing whether our newfound freedom is actually sustainable. So on a global level, I can imagine that in the sign of Scorpio, there is this deep investigation happening. Like there is a focus on uncovering, the bodies buried in the basement. So we might see major leaks regarding financial corruption, intelligent agency secrets or services, the shadow side of certain powerful figures. Now, in the sign of Sagittarius, we're gonna start arguing over the truth. So there could be a intense pushback against religious dogmas, legal systems, educational institutions, where people might refuse to follow certain type of official narratives given by the media or the government, and then we want to kind of explore the truth ourselves. And then Lilith moves into the sign of Capricorn, which is a wall. So she starts exposing the hypocrisy of these governments, the elite, the workplace, for example, companies, and so forth. So it could indicate a certain type of a scandal, especially involving high-ranking CEOs, government officials who preach one thing but live another. And it goes in back into the sign of Sagittarius. So before we build that new law, for example, we have to fight about our values first. Now, on a personal level, Scorpio is very psychological. It is the sign of purity. So this is on a personal level, this is about you saying no. Lilith is trying to help you to find where you have been manipulated or where you have stayed in a toxic situation, potentially out of fear. So it's going to be about purging that emotional clutter so that you can go through the rebirth process. And in the sign of Sagittarius, this is kind of like a wild woman archetype. So you feel this sudden urge to quit a job, travel alone, speak your truth, and speaking your truth can make people around you super uncomfortable. But it's about reclaiming your right to think for yourself, to live life freely. And somehow it can make you the black sheep of the family because there are moral codes behind it, like is it the right course of action, and so forth. And then Lilith moves into the sign of Capricorn, which is about professional integrity as well. So it's gonna start testing your ambition. You may even realize that success you have been chasing actually feels hollow, or your career requires you to suppress your true nature, and I don't want to do that. So that retrograde might suggest a period of time when you have to restructure your public life to actually match your private truth as well. So riding the sign of Scorpio is purging the old shame and revealing certain type of secrets. The shadow side could be that I'm becoming very vengeful or even paranoid. In the sign of Sagittarius, you try to find a new belief or new freedom. The shadow side is that we can become fanatic, we can become this know-it-all type of person. And in the sign of Capricorn, we have to be grounding that freedom into a real life. Does it stand well in the real society? The shadow side could be that we become very calculating, cold, and even power hungry as well. If Lilith just stayed in the sign of Capricorn, we might just become cold and hardened. But by retrograding back into the sign of Sagittarius and Scorpio, she's trying to ensure that our new life isn't just another mask. She forces us to go back and make sure our roots, which is the scorpionic element, and our spirit, which is Sagittarius, are actually healthy before we are allowed to solidify something in the sign of Capricorn. What's very interesting about Lilith is that it has got a tendency to hit a certain point multiple times. Not like just once or twice or even three times. It can happen at least 20 times as well. So what really happens here is that it's a multi-staged kind of like excavation. It's kind of like you go to the dentist and then you have to be doing a job not once or twice, but you might have to visit them multiple times. Or it's like going to the gym. If you want to gain muscle, this is not going to be about going to the gym once, but you're going to have to do that for a year or so. So therefore, this is a slower process here. But because Lilith is kind of wobbling back and forth, she doesn't just pass through a sign, she drills into it. And it always discovers something else. And then it always receives a feedback. So it feels like that I have to go back and then re-establish something. So it's not about finding truth once. You are finding the truth and testing if you can live by it and trying to build a life around it. Finding the truth, Scorpio, whether I can live by it is Sagittarius, and trying to build a life around it. No, that's going to be the Capricorn part of our side. But you're getting pulled back down to see if the truth was actually deep enough. So the Scorpio, it's the shadow. It's power, intimacy, it's the shared resources. So this isn't about just finding the facts. It's about being like honest, like in a really ugly way as well. Maybe it's going to show us where we have been manipulated or where you have manipulated others in order for you to stay safe because she's gonna be here still. You can feel like, you can feel like with Lilith that we are peeling an onion. So you find a secret, you think you are done, and then the retrograde pulls you back to show you the motive behind that secret. So it's really an audit of your psychological basement. Now, in the sign of Sagittarius, which focuses on beliefs, freedom, and the bigger picture, so once you have kind of figured out the secret in the sign of Scorpio, you realize that these rules that you had or a belief system no longer apply. So therefore, you stop trying to fit into someone else's, let's say, political ideas or religious ideas or into a social box. And therefore, I'm going to push back on the censorship or on the official narratives. And you're going to say something like, I don't care if this makes sense to anyone else, but this is what I believe. And then we go into that sign of Capricorn, where, like I said, we're going to hit a wall. It's a critical checkpoint there. This is where things get real. This is where Lilith is going to ask you, can your rebellious truth survive, for example, from 9 to 5? Can it survive a marriage contract? Can it survive the scrutiny of our parents or the scrutiny of our public? And you realize maybe not. So therefore, we might be having an excuse to run away because that Capricorn wall is huge. So that Capricorn wall is telling you to go back right into Sagittarius and Scorpio to look at the depth to do even more work. So you are not allowed to build this new world because the foundation is shaky. And we're going to have to be replanning things. There is a triple threat here because Saturn and Neptune will go into the sign of Aries as well. But that's a new, like a birth of a new era. So it does make sense with Lilith that we're gonna try a lot of new things, and potentially it won't work out because Lilith is gonna station retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, right? So therefore, the ruler of that is Saturn. And Saturn and Neptune will be making a conjunction in the sign of Aries, and Aries is about initiation. And on top of that, we do have got Pluto in Aquarius as well, which is definitely transforming the society. So therefore, Lilith has got the tendency to square Pluto, obviously from the sign of Scorpio. So I think there is a gift behind this back and forth because the Scorpio is telling you you have to be clean. The Sagittarius is trying to make sure that you are free, and Capricorn is trying to make sure that you are quite effective. So, of course, there is a lot to mention here. We would be able to look at what exactly happens with the 12 signs as well. But I'm not going to do that. But I would like to give you an example. So I'm going to be picking Pisces rising sign, um, and then see how that might be happening. Let me just adjust the uh, table. Yes, I'm on ours. So that you understand exactly potentially how we might be able to read it together. So first, pick the house positions where the Scorpio is. So in this case, it's going to be the ninth house. So it is drilling into your belief system. It is deconstructing your philosophy. It is about you seeking the truth. And potentially, you might be very suspicious that the truth is somehow not right. Lilith is trying to reveal, for example, what the spiritual path is or what type of education we need to study or things that we have spiritually bypassed. And you make a certain type of a discovery here, and that truth potentially becomes uncomfortable, let's say about a mentor, a religious institution, or even your own worldview. Now it moves into the sign of Sagittarius, which is the 10th house here. And usually that's where your midheaven is if you use whole sign house system, but that would be the highest point in your chart. This is the most visible part of your chart. So you might feel like that the career that I have been doing is not great, or I feel like an outsider at my job. And maybe you refuse to play the corporate game, or you refuse to be wanting to be accepted or to go on a path that everyone thinks it's successful. So maybe actually we're gonna change our brand. We're gonna quit a job, or we're gonna get dismissed, which could be quite a soul-crushing moment as well. So we go into the 11th house. It's briefly, right, the Capricornian element. And all of a sudden, there is a test connected to your social circle or the long-term goals that you have got for the future. It's going to start revealing the shadow side of your friendships, the organizations you belong to, the dreams, whether it's realistic or not. So you have to be looking at your own tribe. Are these people actually supporting this new career path that, for example, you want to be taking, or you just still that little small child somehow? So from the 10th house, it goes back into the ninth, right? So it's kind of like I want to be free in my career, but do I actually have the guts to stand alone? Do I need to study something? From the 11th, it's going to go back into the 10th, right? So I want to change the world together with someone. But am I just following this new group and dogma instead of my own path? So the result of that, and this movement of Lilith is going to be pretty much ending in 2027, the beginning of the year. The final result is that you stop being kind of like this person who wants to fit in everywhere, and you're going to start being more of an individual. So, of course, this is how we can read this together. So, if I'm picking maybe one more rising sign, let's pick. I'm gonna pick, for example, Sagittarius rising sign, because that might be also super interesting from a 12 first and second house perspective. So it all starts with the 12th house, right? And drilling into your subconscious spheres. It's the closet of your psyche. It's the place of secrets. So you uncover something about your own psychological makeup. And then it starts forcing you to look at why I'm rageful, why I've got hidden addictions, or what type of family secrets we have inherited. So this is telling you that you have to be purging that, psychological basement, basically. And maybe you might even realize that you have got this mask of optimism to avoid the pain. And Lilith here isn't just about finding secrets, but reclaiming the power you lost to people, to family lineage, or situations that you couldn't face before. So Lilith will be moving into your first house, therefore it crosses your ascendant. And that is about, you know what, I'm here. The rebirth of that wild self is there. I'm not going to be nice anymore. I'm not going to be teaching you anymore. I'm going to change my appearance drastically and I'm going to start speaking my own truth. And that's going to be shocking certain people in your life as well. So it feels like that Sagittarius, for example, is going to be about a no. And then it moves into the second house where, very much about, you rebelled, but then you found your true self and you try to figure out how to get money out of this new identity or how to pay for it, you know. Is it going to be financially sustainable? And then it goes back into the first house, right? So before you successfully monetize this new identity, you're going to have to build a new career structure, for example. You're going to have to go back and make sure that you are not carrying any of these first house masks anymore, so you can build a better financial life. So while it's going from the first to the 12th house, it's about I want to be free, but I'm still having certain type of ghosts from my past that I need to kind of hush away. It goes from the second house to the first, so I want to make money, but on my own terms. So do I actually value myself enough to demand that price? And by the end of the year, it's about you creating your personal brand and you being the student as well as the teacher for others because you have mastered your own reality. Okay, so I just wanted to show you two examples how you might be able to actually work with this planetary energy. So good luck, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.